for listening to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast with Wendy Johnson, episode number 34.
Welcome to the Extraordinary Everyday Podcast, where women come to be inspired and motivated to become the best version of themselves and elevate the quality of their everyday. Now, here's your host, certified life coach, Wendy Johnson.
Hello, beautiful friends. How are you today? I'm doing great, and I'm so happy you're here. And I'm excited to talk to you today about 4 rituals that will make you happy. And I know you get a lot of advice out there to become happier. And I do as well. And I've tried so many different rituals and routines. But today I want to talk to you about what a neuroscientist has to say about these rituals that will make you happier. And this is from a book called The Upward Spiral. And the author is UCLA Neuroscience researcher Alex Korb. And he has great insights that help you to create an upward spiral of happiness in your life. And I really like these rituals. They're different than what you may hear. And I want to give you these 4 rituals. And then in future episodes, I'll talk further about creating the upward spiral in other ways and what to do when you're in a downward spiral. But for today, these are 4 rituals, and they're coming from the book, The Upward Spiral. The first tip he recommends is the most important question to ask when you feel down. And the question is, what am I grateful for? And the reason why you ask this question is because it affects your brain at the biological level. The same way the antidepressant Wellbutrin does, it boosts the neurotransmitter dopamine. And Prozac boosts the neurotransmitter serotonin, and so does gratitude. So these are powerful effects of gratitude that can boost your dopamine and your serotonin. Trying to think of things you're grateful for forces you to focus on the positive aspects of your life. This simple act increases the production in the anterior cingulate cortex, and that is in the prefrontal cortex. And when life is challenging and it feels like there's nothing to be grateful for, then you're going to have to find anything. And it's the searching that matters. Easy to be grateful when things are going great. And then when bad feelings completely overtake you, this is tip number 2. When you're really down and you don't know how to deal with it, this tip will help you, and it's to label negative feelings. You give the feeling a name. It's that simple. And studies have shown that putting feelings into words and viewing pictures of people with facial expressions of emotions helps to reduce that emotion. And when you consciously recognize the emotions, they are reduced. Their impact is reduced. And the scientists found that people who tried to suppress a negative emotional experience failed to do so. While they appear fine on the outside, inwardly, their limbic system was just as aroused as without suppression, and in some cases, even more aroused. Trying not to feel something doesn't work. In fact, in most cases, it backfires. But when you label the emotion, it makes a big difference. So what you want to do is use a few words to describe an emotion. And this requires you to activate your prefrontal cortex, which reduces the arousal in the limbic system. And I have all my students do this in their daily journal. They're describing how they're feeling. And when most people begin, they can only describe about 10 to 15 feelings. And I have a handout that I provide that has hundreds of emotions. So you begin to understand yourself more and what the emotions are that you're actually going through, so you know how to get out of them. And when you're practicing mindfulness or meditation, you're labeling the emotions that you're feeling by checking in with yourself. And this is especially important when you have things going on in your life that are causing you some stress. And then here is another simple ritual to beat these negative emotions. And that's tip number 3, make a decision. When you make a decision, your brain finally gets to rest. It's not taking up space in the back of your subconscious brain, eating away at you. Brain science shows that making decisions reduces your worry and anxiety, as well as helping you solve problems. And when you make decisions, you're creating intentions and setting goals. And this is one of the most important things that I do with a student, is to create intentions and to set a goal. And then each day you're making progress on it and you're checking in with yourself. Making decisions changes your perception of the world. You're finding solutions to your problems and you're calming the limbic system. And yes, deciding can be so hard because you're afraid you're going to get it wrong. And this is what neuroscience has to say. Make a good enough decision and don't sweat it. Make the best decision you can at the time. And then we're not putting stress on ourselves trying to be perfect and waiting. Trying to be perfect overwhelms the brain with emotions and makes you feel out of control. And making decisions helps you to feel like you're more in control of your life. A professor named Barry Schwartz said, good enough is almost always good enough. So to summarize, when you make a decision, your brain feels you have control, and a feeling of control reduces stress. And it also boosts pleasure. When you're actively choosing, you're making the decision for your life. You're choosing things that you like, and also you like the things that you choose. And that gives you control. So far, I've talked about 3 tips. You're being grateful, you're labeling negative emotions, and you're making more decisions. And this is all done by yourself and doesn't involve other people. The 4th tip I have for you involves people. And tip number 4 is to touch people, and not just anybody, or you're going to get in big trouble. But we need to feel love and acceptance from others. When we don't, we feel pain, and we don't want to feel awkward or disappointed. When you're socially excluded, it activates the same circuitry as physical pain. I remember times of being excluded from parties and events and feeling so hurt, feeling so much pain. This is because relationships are very important to your brain's feeling of happiness. And the best way to do that is through touching. And you're releasing oxytocin. And this can be small touches, like handshakes, pats on the back. And for people who you're really close with, you want to make an effort to touch more often, because touching is incredibly powerful and we don't give it enough credit. It makes you more persuasive, more loving, a higher team player at work, and it boosts your productivity, your focus, and even your math skills. And when you touch somebody, it actually reduces pain. I remember when I was delivering my baby, when somebody, a nurse or my ex-husband or my mother-in-law was holding my hand, I actually had less pain. And I've had a few procedures done where I was awake, and it was excruciating pain that I was feeling. But when I held the nurse's hand, the pain was reduced. I was able to relax more. Neuroscience says that the brain shows reduced activation in both the anterior cingulate cortex and the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. There's less activity in the pain and worrying circuits. So hug somebody today. And the neuroscientist recommends long hugs with those that you are connected closely with. This long hug releases a neurotransmitter and hormone oxytocin, which reduces the reactivity of the amygdala. And research has even shown that getting 5 hugs a day for 4 weeks increases happiness big time. And if you're not getting that many hugs a day, neuroscience says you should go get a massage. And I absolutely love getting foot reflexologies and massages. I love to be touched. This boosts your serotonin by as much as 30%, your feel-good hormone. And it decreases stress hormones and raises dopamine levels, which helps you create new good habits. It reduces pain because the oxytocin is activating pain-killing endorphins. Not only this, but it improves sleep and reduces fatigue by increasing serotonin and dopamine and decreasing the stress hormone cortisol. So let's spend time with other people and give some hugs, especially this month and next month during the holidays when you're around a lot more family and friends. And on the days that you're home, you can write short notes and mail, or you can send emails and let people know that you care and that you're thinking about them. The one thing that science shows that does not help is texting. It has no effect on the cortisol and oxytocin levels. So it's very similar to the no contact group. But if you want to text and set up a hug appointment, you can do that. So let's round up this episode with these 4 tips. Number 1, ask, what am I grateful for? It doesn't matter what you're grateful for. It's the searching that is helping. Number 2, label those negative emotions, give it a name, and your brain isn't affected so much. Number 3, make a decision. Go for good enough instead of the best decision ever. And number 4, hugs, hugs, and more hugs, and touch. Touch when you can, especially to your loved ones. And this, my friends, will start that upward spiral of happiness. And these tips are from UCLA Neuroscience researcher Alex Korb, and his book is The Upward Spiral. It was written in 2015 if you want to go deeper into this work. I hope you all enjoyed these insights and found them helpful, and I look forward to being with you next week. Take care, friends. Bye-bye. Hey, if you enjoy listening to this podcast, you have to come check out More You, my community of like-minded women. We show up to create the highest version of ourselves and elevate the quality of our everyday along the way. Head over to ontraclifecoaching.com/join. That's ontraclifecoaching.com/join. I'd love to see you in there. And if you haven't grabbed your copy of the Mindset Makeover, head over to ontraclifecoaching.com/makeover and get a copy that teaches and inspires you to show up as your most extraordinary self.